your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for an Oikos remix. Like a crunchy storm of sea salt praline pretzels, dark chocolate, and butter toffee, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 Oikos Remix varieties with epic mix-ins and 11 grams of complete protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See RemixYogurt.com.
Well, it's no secret we've got a new president, and there were a multitude of inaugural balls all over Washington, D.C., and I am told that the toast of the town at ball after ball was the gentleman that we're lucky enough to speak to every week at this time, co-anchor of Fox and Friends, nationally syndicated radio talk show host, best-selling author, host of One Nation on the Fox News Channel, the one and only Brian Kilmeade. Brian, tell me about your inauguration dance card. What'd you do?
Well, I'll tell you, for number one, you heard, I like to know your second source on that. I was the toast of the town.
That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I wish I could know your sources. I mean, I know you were well-sourced in Washington, but I would like to challenge you on that because I think the Trumps really stole the show. I felt like it was really more about them than me. But you know what? We're all up and we're all entitled to our opinion. The balls just think about this. You just think 3,000 people. So everyone's like, I got this exclusive ticket to a ball. There's 3,000 people there. I mean, I want to, and it's impossible. The negative part is, it's impossible to get around. You could have the best car, the nicest limo. You could have the best press pass. You're walking. And it was like 11 degrees. So no one was complaining. They were just, it would remind me so much of the Super Bowl. It was wherever you go, there was just no other team. It was just one team. And I get this more than anything else is I've never been so happy. It's almost as if their kid graduated from school. It's something intensely personal about Trump's win. And he knows it. He brings it up all the time. And the other day, I forgot what it was. He goes, "This is a great win for you," and he stopped it. He's like, "It's a great win for us," because he is got a real sense of it's not me against the world now. He knows he's got real good support. And the other thing I was just thinking about too on the way in is this really looks like the first family now. I mean, people are talking about Barron. People are, they look at Don, and Don's doing his own thing, and the president's selling watches, and Kai Trump talks about how proud she is of her grandfather, and she has this viral video of her getting ready for the big day, and people are talking about what Melania is wearing instead of how did this guy win? I can't believe the stuff he tweets. Now I think people are watching the way he's blitzing with his agenda. Yeah. The other thing is I think people kind of like him more. And they like what surrounds him more. I mean, you are going to see Melania actually selling magazines now with whoever buys them still. She's going to be on the cover of these magazines. I'm telling you, people look at them with more respect now.
I brought this up with you a little bit last week with respect to why the tech billionaires were willing to deal with him and the celebrities were willing to deal with him, whereas the state of play 8 years ago was, all out shunning. And I thought you had a number of interesting theories. But then I was filling in on another radio show over the weekend, and I raised the prospect of why aren't we seeing millions of people marching in the streets? And there were a lot of callers that weighed in with different theories. But I think that what you just described is a big part of it, is that, sure, he's got his detractors, many, but I don't get the sense that people are really concerned that the warnings that we've seen over the course of the last 4 years, like that we're going to be locked up into camps if you disagree on tax reform, I don't get the sense that anybody thinks those are true. And certainly when President Biden greeted President Trump as welcome home at the White House yesterday, they didn't act as if Hitler or Mussolini was coming to take over.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing is, we have that side story of Elon Musk. Obviously, he put his hand on his heart, put his hand in the air, and you got the people in Davos at the Economic Forum, and then you have Senator Murphy on the floor saying, should we allow the Heil Hitler symbol in America again, and why don't we condemn that? And they even asked Elise Stefanik of New York when she's in her hearing, don't you condemn his Heil Hitler dance? I mean, you still have the the craziness where people actually think he was saluting Hitler. On a time, if you put the audio up, Elon Musk was saying, "Thank you, I love you." And he was touching his heart. Yeah, he's awkward. A lot of people put their hands straight up or maybe to the side, but obviously it might be something on the side. You and I say, hey, by the way, that looked like this. But you know he's not saluting Hitler. By the way, if you salute Hitler, you should be proud of it. Everyone. Yeah, I just saluted Hitler. Usually people who saluted Hitler are proud to salute Hitler. You don't deny it.
Right.
So
right.
It's just craziness. But here's the thing I would tell you. I talked to Mark Zuckerberg, and I talked to him for 25 minutes. And he told me flat out, I was told by President Biden, I'm killing people. And remember that. He said, when you bring up Facebook and Meta, that's him. He goes, they were saying Facebook is killing people in 2020 by publishing things like, I don't want to take the vaccine. And I'm going to try ivermectin. And he was getting screamed at. How could you let that go online? How could you put the anti-vaccine stuff out there? You're killing people. Because that was the beginning of the end. I'm killing people by allowing an open forum. Obviously, Republicans had their own problem with Zuckerbucks, and everyone could feel as though he's being insincere. I don't feel that way. And then he told me, now I'm an oligarch, and his face started turning red. And I'm like, as brilliant as he obviously is, he's a guy. He's a woman. I'm not saying he's a man or what. He's just a person who's just got, wow, when you said, I'm an oligarch controlling the country, I'm killing people. He said, I grew up a Democrat. My family was Democrats. I never really knew what that meant. He just said everyone around was a Democrat. I'm not really that political. And he said, but the Democrats are losing the party, and they've lost Silicon Valley, and they could blame Joe Biden because what has happened over the last 4 years, and then Trump being open, has allowed us somewhere to go. And people say, well, he's transactional. I don't know, maybe transactional. But if you have a moderate Democrat who will go, how do I work with you? He'll be open to it. But you had a guy call him evil and now calls him an oligarch.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
Plan on flying? In order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID. Learn how to get your real ID today at tsa.gov/real ID or visit your local DMV.
It's quite a transformation, that's for sure. We're going to see where it goes. I'm sure that you got an opportunity.
I know I have most of your listeners. Most of your listeners are going to say, Brian, you can't be that gullible. You really think that he changed? I actually think he is. He's just not that. I mean, just people just jump into sports and they just might go for a team and you go, wow, that is a little over enthusiastic. Well, I never was into sports before. I feel like he, when he got into Facebook, never wanted to pick a president. And he just got slowly caught up in it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, I think a lot of this is driven by self-interest. I think he's concerned about being regulated and things of that nature and, all these hearings and everything. The one thing that Democrats and Republicans seem to agree on in Washington is that they both have reasons to dislike Facebook. You have, the Federal Trade Commission antitrust suit against Facebook. You have, they're trying to eliminate the consent decree that bans the targeting of children. You have all these, the drama over copyright violations and AI training. And then this is the constant threat from Congress that they're going to regulate social networking over kids' privacy. So it's almost like, I used to see Don King, and I'm sure you did. I remember you were at that 2004 Republican convention at Madison Square Garden, and we got to hang around a little bit then. But I would see Don King walking around with all this Bush paraphernalia. And then you'd see him 4 years later, and he's walking around with all this Obama paraphernalia. And I said to somebody, well, what are Don King's politics? Is he a Republican or Democrat, an independent? What's his deal? And somebody said to me, Don King is for whoever is going to keep him out of jail and whoever is going to keep the IRS from going after him. And that's almost kind of how I feel with Zuckerberg, is that I'm not disputing what he said to you, that, he didn't like being blamed for killing people who would. But I think a lot of this is self-interest. But what do I know?
I don't know. I factor in one other thing. 3 hours, I listened to him on Joe Rogan, and it was just one of those times I listened to the whole thing. And I do think there's a personal transformation that comes with the martial arts, and I've seen it over and over again. And I saw it because I was doing the first 4 UFCs, and I talked to these guys about their disciplines. Like, why are you choosing jiu-jitsu? Why are you choosing Muay Thai? What did it do for you? How did it save? And people just talk about it almost like a religion.
Huh. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're onto something.
I also think that if you're fundamentally a free market person out there every single day trying to not make a living but trying to be the best, you're competing, and you give up weekends, and we both do it, and you work extremely late at night, and you come up with different formulas, and you recruit the best engineers. You're grinding. You're grinding for the American dream. And you turn around and you see a lot of people living off the system, condemning you for not paying your fair share on a regular basis. And I think that after a while, it's like he's not only grinding in business. When he has free time, you grind in jiu-jitsu, and you're going through the routine and and you create the friendships. I think that he was always the smartest, but he was never the coolest. And now in jiu-jitsu, he's got these guys throwing him around, and he's learning, and I'm sure he's skilled, and he's somewhat athletic. He's going into tournaments under different identities, and he's competing. He's like the only thing he was probably missing in his life. He never was one of the guys. And I think he went through a personal transformation. I think he's like finally one of the guys.
You may be
right.
I
think I'm a brilliant. So I just think there's something going on here, and in a few 3-4 years, and I watched Dan Bongino too with him, and they had a great conversation. And Dan is like the man's man. So no nonsense, such a great person. He would go up to Mark Zuckerberg and go, you threw the 2020 election. But instead, he's talking about what Meta's doing, what Rumble's doing. There's a real conversation. And I get the sense that I talked to Dan after. I go, Dan, what'd you think? He goes, good guy. Seemed like a good guy. I'm going to give him a fresh look. And Dan's got this, very condemning of Silicon Valley. I think you know him on our channel.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Hey, let me ask you, speaking of big tech, what's your take on where we are with TikTok? It was banned for about 14 hours, and you had every 14-year-old in the country suffering from panic attacks. It came back. Trump says he wants to keep it. The bipartisan legislation that Congress passed says they have to sell it or it's got to go. That's been upheld by the Supreme Court. You've talked on this program and on your own program about some of the dangers of TikTok. Where do you see this going, Brian?
Well, any clear-thinking person like Tom Cotton, Mike Gallagher, me, everybody knows it's got to be banned. Trump said last night to Sean Hannity, well, aren't you concerned about the spying device that could be put in your iPhone that's made in China and, by Apple? Well, look, if they put in this device, we haven't picked it up yet.
Well, and basically the president
they do
said
track
no.
us.
The president said no, he's not concerned.
Well, he says that if you're that concerned about TikTok, you should be concerned about your iPhone. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a huge difference. Number one, the central government, and I think we've been over this. I just want to reiterate to the audience. The guy who's the editor-in-chief of TikTok also is general secretary of the Communist Party. He served under President Xi. So usually Tim Cook doesn't report to Donald Trump. So that's one thing. Number two is, and this hasn't been addressed to the president, Mr. President, when you go to take on China in a trade war, which, by the way, you're doing in 10% tariffs, I think is coming February 1st, go look on the TikTok news feed how many people are taking your side. Look on the TikTok news feed on how many people are anti-Israeli, anti-Jew on TikTok. How many positive stories about Israel? How about less than 5%, which plays right into some of these protests in these cities? Do you want China in control of the number one news source to our next generation? And then you have the spying device and the information they have on Frank Morano about everything that you have done. And yeah, you could be blackmailed, but you could be exposed. It could destroy your personal life. They also are studying our society to someday take it over or fight us directly. Do you want a whole group of people growing up really not liking America too much as you get more and more anti-American stories? And the headlines might not be America sucks, but the headline is America once again overstretched. And imply, the negativity comes out. Then you have another reason not to like our country with this next generation. Do you want China with control of the next, of the minds of the next Americans, 170 million people? The answer, of course, is no. That's why both Democrats and Republicans followed President Trump's lead and banned it. Ban it again. And sell it to America, or they lose out on $2 trillion. And I'm pretty sure China doesn't want to do that. They'll take their money, and then we got to make sure this Red Note and the other ones and the other apps that are up and coming now get restricted because they are enemies of the state. So is Iran, North Korea, and I could name another dozen.
And this is not going anywhere. I don't know how many Republicans are in Congress, with the exception of Tom Cotton, are going to have the courage to stand up and say that, while Trump, as popular as he is among Republicans, is saying that TikTok is harmless.
Oh, yeah. Tom Cotton said it. He tweeted it out. So, and he says it. I mean,
right. I think he's one of the few. Harmless. I think he's one of the few that's going to be willing to. So
people have told me I was told this. Watch. He's negotiating. But if he says it's 50-50, that's not a negotiation because they're still in control of it. It got to be 100% sold. He said, they're building towards it. And I don't think he's got the ability. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but this was passed by Congress.
Right.
It's not up to you not to enforce this.
Yeah,
it's not even in the president's purview.
I never saw the episode of Schoolhouse Rocks where they explained that Congress passes a law, the president signs it, the Supreme Court upholds it, and all of a sudden it's still not enacted. It's a level of civics that I'm totally unfamiliar with. By the way, people should absolutely listen to Brian today on his nationally syndicated radio show. He's got Arthur Brooks, who's always a terrific interview, as well as Trace Gallagher and entrepreneur Joe Lonsdale. Lastly, Brian, Super Bowl, Eagles, Chiefs, what do we think?
I hope, it's hard to hate the Eagles with Saquon on there, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Commanders in there. And I do think, I do think it's hard to bet against the Chiefs here, but the Bills got America behind them. We remember, I'm older than you, but I do remember the Chiefs, the Bills losing 4 straight times with a fantastic team. And the Giants beat them, and then they got crushed the rest of the time. I think people would love to see the Bills get through. They will be America's team if they get through.
It would be really something to have to bring back Jim Kelly, give him an honorary
I'm so
Super
done
Bowl
with the
ring.
Chiefs.
Yeah, everybody is.
Aren't you done with the Chiefs? Come on.
I had a house full of people last weekend when that game was on, and for a while it looked like the Chiefs were going to lose. And then when it was clear they were going to win, you could hear the groans from even people that I didn't think were football fans. No one wants the Chiefs to win. It's like rooting for the sun to rise. It's like rooting for Bill Gates. All right, Brian Kilmeade, it's always a treat to talk with you. Thank you.
All right, Frank, stay within yourself.
Yeah, I'm making every effort to do that. You can also check out Brian Kilmeade Saturday night on the Fox News Channel as the host of One Nation.